Are you ready to take your moving company to the next level? Then you won't want to miss the Grow Your Moving Company workshop, hosted by MoveItPro. This 2-day event is packed with insights, strategies, and tips on how to streamline your operations, maximize your profits, and take your business to new heights. At the Grow Your Moving Company workshop, you'll hear from experts who have been in your shoes and know what it takes to succeed in this competitive industry. You'll get insider knowledge on how to generate leads, close more deals, and build a brand that sets you apart from the rest. So don't wait. Head over to growworkshop.moveitpro.com to register for the event today. That's growworkshop.moveitpro.com. We'll see you there.
Welcome to the Moving Company Owners Podcast, where we dive deep into the world of moving companies and the people who make them run. From industry leaders to successful moving company owners, we explore their stories, strategies, and insights to help you grow your business and take it to the next level. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned veteran, this is the podcast for you. So sit back, relax, and get ready to move your business forward with your host, Jason Bergenske.
Hey guys, Jason Bergenske here with the Moving Company Owners Podcast, and I have Winston Davis with us here today with MoveUp Consulting. Welcome to the show.
Jason, how's it going, man? Good to be on here. Thanks for having me.
So pretty much, the way we normally start this is just kind of, we want to hear a little bit about you as far as what your story is that got you into the moving industry.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, appreciate it. So basically my story in 2017, I was a few months out from graduating with my undergrad, and I have a degree in exercise physiology. Like so many people, never used it. I did college athletics. I ran track and field in college, and I was just like looking for that in-between job. So the way that I landed a job, because we're probably going to talk about recruiting a little bit, is I applied to an ad on Indeed that said truck captain. That was the title, truck captain. I had no idea what it was. And it was for a college hunks hauling junk and moving franchise up here where I live now. Me and my wife live in Winchester, Virginia. And that's about a little more than an hour west of Washington, D.C., just give people a reference. Mm-hmm. And so went in for the interview to be basically a mover. I didn't know that though. And I just saw the word captain and was like, oh, well, I've done sports. That sounds like something I can do. And I went in a suit and tie because that's what you do for an interview. And the franchise owner was talking to me, and I could tell he was just like, okay, He was like, are you interested in doing sales? And I had never done sales. I'd worked at like a front desk before. That's about it. And I was like, hey, if it's a job, I'm game. And so that's kind of how I got started. So I was a moving consultant, and then I worked my way up to sales manager. I was there for about 3 years. And then the summer of 2020 is when I started MoveUp. Originally started it as a sales coaching business, and got probably 4 or 5 months in, had some clients, and just constantly the same story over and over. Like, hey, this is great, but I don't have any guys to put on these jobs that I'm selling, so it really can't make me money. And I had this one moving company owner up in New York, and he was like, dude, if you can help me get some drivers and some decent helpers, I'll give you 3 times what I'm paying you right now. And I was like, all right, I'll figure it out, because I needed some money. And that was kind of the start. And then I just realized, oh, this is the better business, right? So I kept MoveUp Consulting as the brand, but I pivoted what our deliverables were. And now we're a recruiting agency coming up on 3 years, exclusive to the moving and storage industry. So that's a little bit about us.
That's awesome. And is there anyone else that's necessarily doing, if there is, you don't have to mention their names, but doing what you guys do, or not really, as far as for the moving industry?
Yeah, Mark Gray has been a recruiter in the moving industry for a long time, but his focus is on, office staff. He's not helping recruit labor, like your movers, your drivers, forklift operator, warehouse associate. They're really focused on management, upper management, C-suite, sales, stuff like that. And so they're really the only other person that does recruiting for a household good industry. And we're a little different because about 80% of what we do is labor. So but we also will help with management, sales, admin, all those roles too.
Sure. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then, so when you first started, kind of, what did that look like? So obviously, you're no longer working at College Hunks, I assume,
Right.
and it was right before COVID hits, I guess, right? And kind of what did that look like? The process of getting your first customer, getting your second customer. What were sacrifices were you going through or doing to get where you needed to be at?
Yeah. So I had been thinking, I was in my mind, like looking for the business or wanting to build a business for probably about 18 months. I was just trying to figure it out while I was selling in my sales manager role. And then COVID was like March or April, right? And then June came around. I just felt capped. And so I left to actually go sell life insurance. I did that for like a month and then stopped because I was like, okay, this is not what I want to do. I love sales, but I was like, I don't want to do that kind of sales. Not knocking that. There's people that made buku of money in life insurance, but and then I actually tried to go back to my old job. Long story short, that didn't happen, and then I was jobless. So really, it was like, all right, I think I had maybe like 10 grand in the bank, and I'm like renting a room from a buddy in the basement of a townhouse. My expenses were low. So I told myself, all right, I'm going to give this 3 months. And if I'm not making enough money to pay my bills after 3 months, I'll go get a job. And because I just felt like this has got to be the time, when people, because the world at that state, like 3 or 4 months after COVID started, everybody's just like holding on, retracting. Yeah. And I had for like 3 or 4 years at that point just been consuming like personal development, books, audios, podcasts, association with better people. And I knew like when people are contracting, that's when you need to go gain ground. And so I kind of just had to draw a line in the sand and go do it. It wasn't like I had the perfect scenario. My first customers, to come back to your point, I just cold called people off of Google. I had a little software that I was paying a subscription for that basically scraped data off of people's Google My Business profiles. I put it into a list, and then I had a power dialer that I was just dialing and cold calling, cold emailing, and that's how I got probably my
Use the C word. I think everyone's scared of that word.
People are really not about that anymore, but it's all, if you have the skill,
it works.
If you have the skill, I mean, it's not how I would go get customers right now, but we still do a little bit of it. It's just not my only way of getting customers now,
Yeah, that's awesome. And then, so your first couple customers then came from doing cold calls. And then where did that lead into, as far as at what point were you like, all right, this is a thing, and this thing, I'm going to be able to pay my bills, or now I am paying my bills, and now this is, what my company is. Because when you first started, I think you mentioned you were originally doing or trying to, it was
sales coaching
versus recruiting.
Yeah, I had like in my mind, this was my business plan to start. And it's so like thinking back, it's like so naive, so stupid. Like, oh my gosh, my dream was so small and my vision was so small. Yep. But it was very large where I was at the time. But just looking in, backwards. So I was like, okay, if I can get, I don't even remember the math. I was like, if I can get 50 clients that will pay me like $300 a month to be on a coaching call with them every other week, or like something like that. It was like every other week or something crazy. And then I didn't do the math. Like I didn't know that like, I wouldn't have enough time to do that many calls. Yeah. And so I just like cold called a few, and I was like, hey, this is why I'm calling. This is what my background. This is what I can help you with. Are you interested? Just got to the point, and the people that bid on it. I even drove to a couple local moving companies that were within like 90 minutes of me, and like sold them in person. I got my first customer at $300 a month, and I was like, okay, cool. And then I remember raising the rate every time I sold a new one, and I got it up to $1,000 a month. So every time I got a new customer, I went up $100 because I was like, all right, let's see if I can get more. This is when I was doing the sales coaching. And then my calendar started getting full. I might have had like 12 customers. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do 50 of these. Like I'm busy out of my mind now because not only did they want coaching, but I didn't understand anything about coaching. And so they also like wanted me to do a bunch of deliverable stuff outside of the calls. And I was saying yes to it, like creating SOPs and like writing documents and writing scripts. And I didn't have any of that stuff at the time, like laid out. Right.
Yeah.
And so it was not a good business plan. And then I had one moving company in New York that was like, I need labor because I can't book any more jobs. And he's like, I'll pay you 3 times what I pay you now. And I think he was paying me like $800. So he was basically saying, hey, I'll pay you about $2,500 a month if you can get me drivers and movers. And so I just started doing that. And I was the guy running the ads, following up and prospecting all the leads, doing the phone interviews, and then I would book him in-person interviews. That was just what I figured. All right, I'll do all the front end, and then I'll send you good ones. Yep. And he started hiring people, and I was like, well, shit, this is better. And then I realized, oh, that's a service-based business that I can actually delegate and hire staff out. And so that's kind of the progression. I just went through. I didn't realize, my time but it was good because I think I got the coaching stuff to probably be about a little less than $10,000 a month. It might've been like $8,000 a month I was running through revenue, and I had like no expenses because I had no employees. I had maybe a couple software tools, and I was running from a home office. So, I mean, there was little expenses. Whereas now there's many more expenses, as you know, right?
Expenses.
Yeah.
The bigger you get, the more expenses you have.
Yeah.
We've all learned it. So on other ways, so obviously you started off with the cold calls. What does it look like now for you guys getting new customers? Where are the majority of those customers coming from?
Yeah, so a few things. The biggest thing that grew MoveUp was our organic Facebook. So, I mean, there is just a large community of moving and storage owners that live on Facebook. And when I say live on there, it's like they traffic it, they go there. And so if you put a piece of content there, they consume it. Oh. And so I realized pretty early that like, okay, if I post on my story like every day, if I just commit to a daily habit and add value, and then do a call to action, that was getting me business. And so I just did that a lot. I created my own Facebook group. There were like all these moving groups. And I remember joining them, and I wasn't trying to be like the spammy guy. I would just go and comment like my personal thoughts on what people would ask questions. I mean, I'm sure you've been on those, and I was just like being active. And I think somebody realized I wasn't a moving owner, and so they took me out of it. And I was like, well, that's kind of crappy. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to go make my own. And so now we have a pretty good hiring and recruiting strategies for moving company owners. And so I think we're around 700 members. They're pretty much all owners and managers. And so now that's a great tool for us. So that's kind of the organic Facebook stuff. And the next piece was I was able to sign a couple high influential moving owners, and really the referrals just flowed because there was nobody else doing what we do with the labor part for recruiting. Yeah. And this, we really grew a lot in like April of 2021, and people were just like, yes, show me what you have. And yes. So it was pretty easy to sign people up because there was no competitor to compare really. The competitor is,
and everyone was struggling with it.
Yeah.
Everyone was struggling with it.
Everybody.
I mean, especially after COVID.
Yeah.
Or during COVID, it was really hard to get guys.
Yeah.
Our wonderful government wanted to continue to give away money for
That's right. Yeah.
people to sit from home and not have to work. I'd mentioned it before, the moving company I was running, we had guys that worked for us for years and years, and they'd come to us and say, yeah, I can work, but you need to pay us under the table, which we couldn't. We were established moving company. We couldn't pay them under the table.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about? We can't pay you under the table. They said, well, I'm getting $1,200 a week right now sitting from home watching TV, and I can't mess that up.
Yeah.
And you're just looking at them. And the unfortunate thing is I get it.
Right.
But at the same time, how do we put ourselves in a situation as an economy, as a United States of America, that's what it became, and it killed moving companies for hiring guys and keeping good guys, which is obviously a big part of why you've become very successful, because that was the reality that we were all in, moving company owners, and in general, laborers for moving companies is a rougher job. It's very labor intensive. You never know what time you're going to get off each day. You don't know if it's going to be a short day or a long day. It's a hard job, right? It's not driving around a taxi, right? You're climbing stairs, carrying couches, doing a lot of stuff. So, it made it really hard to hire people, which is what's awesome that, you opened your service up and to be able to help people and bring people from the outside that have never been in the moving industry to start a career in the moving industry, which is really good.
And that's probably, thinking about, as listening to you there for a moment, like the best marketing was just the coincidental timing of the business, of MoveUp. Like, it probably couldn't have been better timing to start a recruiting agency for moving and storage in 2020. I mean, it was, if I had started it 5 years before, sure, I'm sure we still would have been successful. But the ease of, like, when I would get on sales calls and I would speak with owners and I would, like, kind of hit on the emotional heartstrings, like, dude, like, what, like, you can't keep doing this, if you keep trying to do it on your own, which it's obviously not working, whatever you're doing on your own. It just was, the sale was not, the objection was not that large to overcome. And that probably was the biggest advocate for us to grow, because it was just the right business, right time, right place. So there was a little luck in there. I'm not going to deny that.
Yeah, but you found that was the need. And it's crazy because, I also own Lion's Den Booking Service, which is, a booking service for moving companies. And I'll tell you, there was tons of moving companies during that time that would tell us, you got to stop booking moves. I got 10 trucks, but I only got enough guys for 4 of them. Mm-hmm. So we can't take any more jobs. And just thinking about that, the tragic part of that is that moving company paying for 12 trucks, paying insurance on 12 trucks, and not having enough guys, and having the business. They have the business coming in to be able to run 12 trucks, but not be able to have enough guys to be able to send out there is tragic, and is, obviously it really helped, or you guys helped them, be able to come in and help those companies. So which is awesome.
A lot of moving owners just don't realize the numbers behind what is an employee worth. Now, obviously a driver worth a lot more than just a laborer, for sure. But if you look at, try to keep things simple, one crew, let's say a 3-man crew in a 26-foot truck, let's say that's worth $250,000 a year in annual revenue. So, could do more, but I think that's a fair estimate. If you took that 250 divided by 3, and then you say, okay, that's the revenue associated per employee for the crew of 3. Now, again, the driver's probably worth quite a bit more. So you could do the numbers that way. And then you say, okay, let's say our business is a 15% net margin business. Then what it means to you as an owner is, let's say, I don't know what the number is there, 250 divided by 3. My phone's off because I wasn't trying to get phone calls. Take that number. It's like, 80 some thousand or something like that. Divide it or multiply it by 0.15. That number is the legit profit of what that one employee brings the owner. And that's what it's worth to get. I mean, that's what it's worth. And then if you do the same thing, but you look at the other end of like getting customers as a moving business, let's say your average move size is $2,000. The average, what do they say? The average person moves 11.7 times in their life.
Sure.
But most of those moves happen between the age of like 20 and 40 years old. And not all of those are them paying a mover, but all the when they're over 40 years old, that's really, all of those are really where they're paying a mover, right? They're more well-established, they're older. When you look at what one customer is worth to you, if you do the same formula, break it down like, okay, this is what the annual revenue of one customer is, and this is what they're worth to us. And then you compare it to what one employee is worth, just a laborer. Very, very different. But think about as this industry, how much focus goes on the customer, like acquiring the customer, which that's the lifeblood of your business is new business, right? But we're a service business. You can't go service them without this staff. And most companies, they just don't invest enough in recruitment, hiring, onboarding, and training. And that's where if more companies invested a little more time, a little more energy, a little more resources, they'd see a big ROI.
Attention moving company owners, are you tired of managing your business with spreadsheets and pen and paper methods? Do you want to streamline your operations, increase your bookings, and look more professional to your customers? Then it's time to switch to MOVEITPRO software. Our cloud-based platform provides everything you need to manage your moving company in one place, from booking and dispatching to payment processing and customer communication. Plus, with features like GPS tracking, real-time notifications, and detailed reporting, you'll be able to optimize your operations and take your business to the next level. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.moveitpro.com to schedule a free demo today and see how we can help you move your business forward.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I mean, there's so many moving companies, which is not how it should be, but there's so many moving companies that book as many jobs as they can, and they don't worry about having enough guys to cover it. And if they don't have enough guys to cover it, they just figure out, hey, who you got to bring in? You got a brother? You got a cousin you can bring in? You know. And while some of those jobs might go well, you're bringing in a lot of people that are not going to be experienced and be able to give the performance and the customer service that you're wanting to as a company to, as you're talking about, turning that one-time customer into a multiple-time customer. And I think, as one of the things, I know you wanted to touch on was the culture of employees with a moving company, any company, really. Yeah. But, I know for one thing, that was something we struggled with MOVEITPRO in the very beginning. And it wasn't on purpose, and it wasn't that we were trying to do anything bad, but our focus was not as much on employees. And again, not in a negative way. We didn't really understand that how important employees were to us in the sense of if they leave, what it takes for us to get someone to replace them and get them trained and all these things. And a few years ago, we invested in a multi-million-dollar building and renovated the whole thing and put in a gym and put in a full break room with TVs and Netflix and, brought in where we have, breakfast every morning for all the employees, and they got unlimited, Keurigs, and we bring in, we just started doing things that, they're minuscule things. They're small things, right? Yeah. I'll be honest, the gym probably doesn't get used as much as it should, but they love it. Yeah. In January, it gets used.
They tell all their friends and family that there's a gym.
They have a gym, right? And then obviously we started doing 401k, and we did health insurance, and we did, all those, tons of PTO and, all those things that it really helped the culture of the company because they knew that we cared about them, and they knew that we were providing as much as we could. And then mixed with that, with getting rid of the negative people, that's one thing that a lot of companies don't realize. And I've talked about this previously on other podcasts with other guests, but when you get a person in your company that's a negative influence or is a negative Nancy or a Karen per se, right? it spreads like cancer and like wildfire. And it's, we've experienced it where we had one and in general, they were a good employee. And so that was always in the back of our head. We're like, oh, they're a good employee. Like we don't have to, to get someone else and train them to do what they're doing. And we made excuses for their actions, the way that they acted, which were low key negative. They weren't outwardly disrespectful or negative to our face, but you could tell there was, comments said or things, to other employees and stuff. And before we knew it, that one employee became 3. And then the 3 became 6. And then it was a holy crap. And we, at one point, we let, I think 8 or 9 people go within a 2-day period.
Yeah.
I'll say this. It was the best thing we ever did. And that's scary for a company that had, at that time, I think now we're about 36 employees. At that time, we were maybe at 20.
Yeah.
So to let go
big move,
almost
big
half of your team, that's a scary thing.
Yeah.
And it required a lot from our executive team. We had to work quite a bit more during that time of getting new people in and getting them trained. But all of us from, myself as the CEO and Kayla, which is now my wife, is the COO. Sarah, who is our vice president, not related at all. She started off in our call center and moved up. Our managers for our call center stuff. All of us got together and we said, you know what? It doesn't matter how much we have to work. We have to get rid of those people.
Yeah.
And that was us protecting our culture and trying to change our culture to make sure that it was okay. So that's enough as far as on my side, but where, you're dealing with this a lot more on multiple companies. I'm dealing with it from our view of, running a couple companies within the moving industry. Yeah. What do you see and how important do you see that the culture is as these companies are trying to grow and, constantly trying to, improve their processes and what they're doing?
Yeah. Yeah. If there was anything that I wish I would have done more of in my business is I would have spent more mental capacity myself in building more for culture, more for the environment. I think at MoveUp, we actually have a really thriving environment, but even me thinking, and if we polled all of our staff, I know exactly what they would say. There's no question in my mind.
Sure.
And that's how you know that you're doing those things.
Yep.
We have action steps, we have a process, and we have a system for culture. The same way we have a process for sales. It's not like a pie in the sky thing that we're just like, oh, let's throw a midsummer cookout for the team. It's not like we just pull that out of the hat. It's like, no, in January, we plan the whole year of events. In January, we block schedule all the team stuff. I have a personal project for myself for each department on how I can make that department glue better. So it is 100% it's not something that just is coincidental. It is a planned event. And I think that's where people go wrong. They think that they're supposed to just like it does matter about the people, very much so. You hit great points. But the leadership team has to treat it as any other system in the business, I think. And you'll have trial and error, right? You'll try something and be like, oh, that was a sham. That was bad. I'll tell you what's really crazy is everything I do in MoveUp, I just always teach to the moving owners because it's just all relatable. It's almost all relatable. We do, I think every company, if you have more than 3 employees, probably more than 2, you should have a standing meeting every week. You should have a team meeting. Yep. So we have a team meeting every Monday morning, full staff. Yep. And the first 5 or 10 minutes is just like people cutting up and talking about the weekend and whatever. Yep. Like it's just connect time. And we have an agenda. Like the leadership team writes an agenda for that meeting every week. And we specifically focus on recognition. Every week we're like, okay, we have to have some recognition. The number one reason why people leave jobs is because they don't feel recognized and valued. It's the number one cause.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, if you know, and that's, you could go like Google that and go read 5 different articles. They all will say the same thing. They may say different percent, like that percentages, that stuff. That might vary, but it's always number one. So if you know that's number one, that should just be where you spend all the most time.
Yeah. And stand-up meetings is great. I'll tell you, about a year ago, we started doing them. We do them every day. So 11:05 every morning.
Yeah.
We have a stand-up meeting, and it's awesome. I mean, it's our people. It's interesting. We talk about all the sales for the week, all the sales for yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Who's winning for each department, success stories. How many reviews we're at for the month. I mean, all of the KPIs that are really important to us and to the team, we discuss those, which is really neat. And in fact, we have, we do workshops at our office where moving company owners come from all over the country. And we have one coming up in May, in a couple of weeks. But we actually do, on the first day, we'll do our stand-up meeting in front of all of them.
Good.
And usually when people watch it, they go, "Holy crap!" Because it's more than just a meeting. It's getting them ramped up and excited.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting. And that's neat that you guys do it.
And what's hard is, so if a moving company owner is listening, they're like, okay, that's cool. You guys have you guys have different companies where like people are all working in the office, but how do I do that?
Sure.
How do I do a full staff meeting weekly when not every single one of the movers or drivers comes in every single day at the same time, right? And so what I usually advise is to do morning huddles every day, and that's like your consistent thing. And so before all the crews get dispatched, you have a 5-minute morning huddle. Whoever's running dispatch, whether it's like a GM or ops manager or whoever, whatever they have in their process, they just have one message. Like there's one thing that you drive home for everybody, and you do it every day. And whatever's like lacking in the business, you focus on. And it's also a time where you connect and stuff. But I remember I went out to Dallas back in January and did like a 2-day boot camp with a moving company. And like I saw their morning dispatch and was like, it's really tight with like the equipment and like making sure all the truck, like everything's going out on time. But the culture part was like needed work, right? There was like nobody, there wasn't a group. There was no huddle. There was no connection. There was no like, hey guys, this was the big wins from yesterday, or this is what we're focusing on all today as a company. And the daily stuff is what drives culture as well as results. And so, you talked about, I want to come back to, you let go of like 8 people in a 2-day period.
Yeah.
What I've learned, what I try to go by, it's very difficult. The stuff like letting people go is probably the hardest part of having a business. Definitely the hardest part. The moment, like, the question is like, when should you let someone go? Generally, the moment that you think you should.
Yeah, the first time.
Yeah,
and we've actually had that conversation before. Every time, and I think a lot of companies can relate to this, no matter what size you are. But so many times we know we need to let someone go, but we make excuses.
Yeah,
and the excuses could sound like, I'm going to let them go, but I need to get someone else to replace them first. I'm going to let them go, but I need to make sure everything they know, we get the information before they go. I'm going to let them go, but I'm going to give them one more chance. Or and they always sound like this. And if you're running things right, you let them go on the first time.
All 3 of those. Yeah, you're exactly right. And the reason that people have those, like those objections is because, so if we go in order, or I'll go backwards, the last one there, what was the last one?
We'll give them one more chance. Was the last one.
So if somebody says that, it means that they don't document, like when somebody needs to be written up, or when they, like, there's no write-ups, there's no documentation of consequences in the company. That's why they're doing one more chance. Correct. Right? And you do another one and another one and another one. The one before that, where it was, we need to get all the stuff they know before we let them go. That's a process documentation issue. You're not documenting
that you should have had before that. They were a problem.
And then the one before that was, we need somebody else. So before we let this person go, You should be recruiting all year round. You should have a pipeline, so that way you're never a sitting duck. Yeah.
And those, every one of those excuses that I just said, I have personally used.
Yeah, me too.
Before we had processes, before we had SOPs, before we had a way of knowing exactly, everything that went into the company. So now when we hire an employee, we use Trainual, which some people might know what it is, but essentially is, a system for hiring and training people, making sure that they get documents and sign and whatever. So we essentially have SOPs for every position in our company. So when a new employee starts on their day one after they've done all their paperwork, that's one of the things they go through, and it's going to outline what their position is. It's going to outline how to do everything in their position. So, and not that you want this, but literally if everyone walked out of our company that does any one of our positions, we fairly simply could get someone else to do those positions and be able to know what they need to do without me or our vice president or someone sitting down with them and saying, all right, well, this is what you need to do here, and you need to do it in this order. Oh, but don't forget, you got to do that. And it's outlined. And so that makes it so much easier too when we're hiring people, when we're not in an emergency, as well as in an emergency. But no matter what, when you're hiring someone, it's very easy then because you have processes in place. And that's the most important thing, one of the most important things, I think, with scaling a business, because that's where all of us really have a problem.
Right.
When you start scaling and then, getting into an issue with trying to train people to do what someone else is already doing,
right.
Trying to get them to do it the same way and not make mistakes and not miss certain criterias of what their job is, et cetera. So I think that's good.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah. And the more and more that I speak with people that's involved with moving and storage, the more I become like cemented that the key to be successful in this business is people. You need, yes, you have to have jobs. Like we all know, you got to have great sales, you got to have great advertising and marketing. But, there's two sides of the business. But I really lean on the people side. Obviously I run a recruiting agency, which has to do with people, but, you could have all the right processes and systems on sales and marketing, and you would still go out of business if your people side was terrible. If your people side was amazing and you had everything nailed down, and your sales and marketing was lackluster and really, behind, you would stay in business. You would make up, because great people deliver memorable experiences. And if you can create memorable experiences, that in itself will market your business and keep your reputation pure and really strong, in my belief. And then it comes down to, like, as an owner, it's not just the amount of money you're making. It's what did you have to give up to make that money? All right. Well, if you have to go fix everything and constantly replace people and constantly clean up messes from your team, you're just in a little prison. Sure, you might be making decent money, but
is it worth it?
Yeah, is it worth it? And it just sometimes people's journey is longer than others. Like some people go 10 years just doing the same thing and not really figuring it out. Some people, they figure it out in like 6 months to 12 months. Not figuring it all out, but figuring out some of the people stuff.
Yep. That's awesome. So, and one other thing, as far as if a customer comes to you, kind of give me what that looks like. So if I call you, I own a moving company.
Yeah.
And I say, man, Winston, I need help. I got to hire, a couple drivers and, 4 or 5 movers.
Yeah.
What does that process look like, start to finish, from you're talking to them, figure out what plan or package or however you do what you do?
Yeah, well, the very first thing is usually it's discovery, figuring out like, okay, hey, let's learn a little bit about your business right now. Like, how many trucks do you have? How many crews go out each day on average? How many full-time and part-time frontline employees do you have? How many admin employees do you have? What are all the roles that you have built out in your org chart? And so we paint that picture. And then it's the need, right? So we have part of our service, we could help hire sales, management, admin. That's more of like a one-off, like typical recruitment. It's direct hire, meaning all of our stuff is direct hire, which just means it's the total opposite of a staffing agency. Staffing agency is going to put that person on their payroll, and then that person, there's a margin, and they go work for the company for X amount of days and months. For direct hire, it's once you decide you want to hire that person, you got them. They're on your payroll, right? And so that's all we do. We only do direct hire. But if someone needs like a few drivers, a few movers, even if they need maybe an inside salesperson a few months down the line after that, we'll generally look at two options. It's going to be our hiring system, which is essentially us doing all the recruitment advertisement online, which is going to include us doing everything on Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Craigslist, Facebook. Those are kind of the big areas. And then we also have a hiring CRM, which everything's housed in. That's the infrastructure. That's where all the drip campaigns are. That's where the pipeline is to make nurture the recruiting database. That's where all the appointments live. And then we have a call center of setters and recruiters. And hiring system is like, we're going to do everything for the moving business up until an in-person interview. They don't have to touch anything. We're going to run all the ads. We're going to get the leads. We're going to follow up with the leads. We're going to phone interview them. We're going to qualify them. Then we're going to schedule them for an in-person appointment. We're going to confirm that appointment manually and multiple times through text. And then the moving company steps in and the person comes to their office or their warehouse. We have a tier option that's a little lower where more it's like we do all the recruitment online, but then they don't have the call center piece. So they got to follow up on their own leads. So depending on what level they want to go at. But hiring system is what almost everybody does with us. Because when you just think about the work that goes into, let's say you have 100 applicants a month for movers and drivers, a third of them you'll never hear from them. Never. They just submitted it to they submitted an application to mark it on paperwork or something, right?
Yep. Unemployment probably.
And then another third are semi-interested. They're kind of just seeing what's out there. Yeah. So they may reply. Yeah. If you call, text, and email them 5 times, then you'll probably get a hold of them, which we do. That's part of our call center process. And then a third are probably legit interested, right? The rule of thirds. And we have our process is so streamlined now. We have setters, and literally the setter's job is we have power dialers, and we have a person that every time a lead engages with anything we send them, we get notified and the setter follows up. And all their job is follow up to then set up a phone interview. So a job candidate has to honor a scheduled phone interview with our recruiter. They have to meet the client's requirements. Then they get to be set for an in-person interview. And the reason it's just a great process is because it's not some moving companies, they get a applicant on Indeed and then they just call them and invite them to come to the office. And it's like a working interview. Yep. That can work, but I'm not a big fan of it just because the easier it is to get the job, the easier it is for the person to leave.
Yep.
And when you have a candidate have to earn the opportunity rather than you give them the job, they value it more, I find.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen that too. So we changed. I mean, it's interesting you brought that up because I really didn't think about it. But, I don't know, a year, 2 years ago, we changed our hiring process. We used to do the same, Indeed, and then we would just schedule them for an in-person interview. And it was terrible. People wouldn't show up. I mean, 95% of them wouldn't show up, and so then you got the person that's supposed to be interviewing them, their entire schedule is full of people that don't show up. we changed our entire process. We do three sections. So our first process is doing a phone or Zoom interview.
Yep.
So obviously they fill out an application, or Indeed, we get with them, do a phone interview. Then we send them a section. There's a software out there called Test Gorilla.
Okay. Yeah.
Which we send them. So if we like them, they do really good on the phone interview. We're like, man, these guys could be good. Test Gorilla is a platform that's out there that you send them. Has, gosh, I don't know, probably 1 million different tests you can send them, or you can create your own.
Yeah.
So they have tests for developers where they got to test code, do code.
Yep.
There's ones for calling and HR. I mean, there's tons.
Yep.
So we'll send them that. Usually it's a 20 to 30 minute test. They don't get paid for it. They do it on their own time from home. Of ours, one of them is the DISC test.
Yeah,
kind of tells us the personality trait of the employee. So assuming they do good on that, then we then schedule a in-person interview for them where they have to do a presentation in our conference room with our executive staff on our core values. If you get someone to show up and do that, they're not going anywhere. And so I'll say this, we do a lot less interviews, but the people we get, they don't go anywhere. And they show up and they do a phenomenal job, and they're nervous when they come in. And it's the things kind of you want, right? Because I'm not saying nervous because you want them to be nervous, but it means they care. It means they're coming.
We both are on the same page. We know how to do it.
Yep. And so we do that. And so since we started doing that, our turn up rate has increased dramatically. Our people leaving after a couple weeks or a month has reduced dramatically. It's really helped us. And so it's interesting because you're doing something very similar, but different. And we've never talked before. It's just something we've found to work from trial and error of trying to continually build and increase our revenue and our team and stuff. So it's really
That's
cool.
great. Yeah, I love that. What I learned and you're doing it over there is, and I think most moving companies just don't believe it until they start doing it, and then they see a month or two of the results of it. But the more steps you add to your hiring process, the better results you normally get. Now, if you added 10 steps, and it's going to be an adverse effect. There is a point where it's like too much, but by what a lot of moving companies think though is like, oh, nobody's going to do that. Like, I'm not our market up here in New Jersey. Ain't nobody going to do that. Out here in Texas,
I think I probably said that to our VP when she said, "This is what we're going to start doing." So I wouldn't do that.
You're not going to get anybody. Yeah,
and they do it.
Yeah.
So,
and the point of a hiring process is it's supposed to be a filter. And the point of a filter is to get rid of the bad stuff. That is the job of a filter. When you think about like when you like a drink, like when you have a funnel, I don't know, you're like putting something in a canister. Like the point of the filter is to stop bad stuff from getting in and let the one thing you want to go through. And that's how your hiring process should be. Most people think it the other way. It's like, let's just get everyone and see who sticks. And that's the throwing the mud on the wall and just seeing what's going to stick there. One cool thing we do at MoveUp, you talked about Test Gorilla and then the DISC test. So we have a piece that actually is the original part they have to do. And we use a software called JotForm, and we have a form technology that has conditional logic on it. And so they go through, for movers and drivers, it's about a 12 to 15 step survey. And their image choice options. There's no typing. There's no the answers have images to them, and it's very specifically put together so that way if someone answers it a certain way, the form technology will qualify them or disqualify them, and if they answer it well enough, they can actually schedule their own phone interview with our recruiters, and so that saves time. But then it's just a piece because with maybe what you guys do at Lion's Den and MOVEITPRO, it's just a little different positions maybe. But like movers, you'll get a bajillion applicants, and you really need a process on the front end that's just like automated, that kind of gets rid of the big chunk that that you should not even speak
The
to.
time wasters.
And then you get that little chunk, it's going to be much smaller, that you have somebody connect with on the phone. Moving companies that are less than probably at least 5 million, they probably don't have a dedicated staff member that does recruiting in HR.
Sure.
I mean, that probably becomes more of a thing maybe around 7, 10 million. I don't know. It's somewhere around there. But I mean, the average moving company is probably doing 750,000 to 2.5 million. And they don't have a dedicated person to do interviewing, recruiting, hiring, but it's still a role in the business. And so what happens is the ops manager gets it, or the GM gets it, or the owner is doing it. And so it's still there, but it's, it's wearing multiple hats kind of thing. And that's why they don't get very great, as good results. Whereas if they use somebody like MoveUp, it's dedicated out. Same thing as like if you're using Lion's Den, it's the same concept, right? You just might have somebody doing 3 different jobs.
Are you a moving company struggling to keep up with customer calls? Let Lion's Den Booking Service handle your overflow, after-hours calls, or even the entirety of your sales. As a call center booking service, we're dedicated to helping your business thrive. With years of experience and a commitment to customer satisfaction, we'll make sure your clients receive the best possible service. Trust us to take your business to the next level. Contact Lion's Den Booking Service today. www.lionsdensales.com.
Sure. So for you guys, when you're doing hiring, is it a flat fee per person you're getting? Is it different depending on?
We have a super intriguing model. So we have a 1 price per month model, a subscription-based plan. And so we say, hey, this is what we do. This is our service. We do have a guarantee on it. And we say, this is what it costs. You can hire as many people as you want. We will hire you as many people as we possibly can. We will send you as many qualified interviews as we possibly can. This is the number. And then we have a couple different package terms. If someone wants to, commit to this for the next year, then they can save a couple bucks. But so we actually don't charge per hire for movers and drivers. Now, if you're looking to hire a GM, yes, that is a one-time placement fee, traditional recruitment fee. But that's the awesome thing about movers and drivers, because if we charge people for every hire, here's the reality: we do a great job, but we're not them. We're not the company, so we can't control what happens once the employee starts working, and what happens when that person leaves after 2 days, or after a week, or after a month. So if we charge per hire with movers and drivers, it would be an insane billing structure. So we say, look, one number, it's a subscription, you pay once a month, and you get the whole service. And that's how we've ran, and it's worked really effectively. And I personally love it because it grows. We have MRR, monthly recurring revenue. You can predict your year and your quarter way better when you have money on draft. And so it makes our company very desirable too, just from a business owner standpoint. I prefer having, I love a business that has monthly recurring revenue and gets big chunks of one-time money. And if you can have a business that does both of those, that's amazing. So that's what we do.
That's good. That's cool. So I guess kind of moves us into the last thing, which I call the lightning round.
Sweet.
So pretty much just asking you 6 questions, not as much about moving industry, but just more about you in general. So we'll go ahead and go.
Let's do it. I'm ready for the lightning round.
Move to the lightning round. What's the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
Digging in the archive here for a minute.
Yeah, you're good, man. Take your time.
Oh man, there's so many that will run through my head. I think the best one that I can provide right now, I'm sure if you ask me every day for the next year, I would say something a little different, right? You know how it is.
Sure.
But the best piece of advice is developing leaders. Like I really created a company when I realized, and I had someone like constantly telling me this, I just didn't listen to them until, but like to grow a company, you need to develop leaders. And that's going to mean that like you need to create a team around you that's better than you. And so that advice is like, you're going to have to trust people. It's really hard.
Yeah, you don't always want to be the smartest person in the room. That was one I heard a long time ago. And it's not an unhumbling thing to say, but you should surround yourself around a lot smarter people.
Yeah.
Because that's how you gain knowledge and become more successful. So that's awesome. What's one attribute or characteristic of a successful founder or owner, do you feel?
A successful attribute. Of an owner or founder. The number one thing that's helped me, I think that's how I can speak best, is being able to convey vision, like being able to articulate your imagination. And I know that might not be like I don't know if we were going for the personality attribute or just like a skill set, but like
that's whatever comes to your mind.
I'm definitely an extrovert. I have a choleric personality. And so I don't shy from speaking most of the times. But what I've helped me the most is being able to articulate my vision as an owner and getting people to believe it. That's been the most helpful thing.
Yeah. That shows you're a good leader. So that's awesome. What's one of your favorite productivity tools?
Favorite productivity tool. A pencil and paper, man.
I know you're wearing one right now.
That's literally, I have a pad in front of me. I don't know. I guess I should back up. I mean, I say that, but probably the one that actually legitimately helps me the most. This is good. I'll share this one. So we use Asana for our company. It's a project management software. And so I have my own like CEO dashboard that has every department of the company. And I am able to like just brain dump in each department. And then I can share those out to the department leaders. And so that's the best productivity tool for me because I don't lose things. I don't, I put it on paper and then I'm like, okay, I got to take it off the sketch paper and put it into Asana. So for me, that's been so great because I'll have an idea today, but it doesn't get acted on for 6 months or 12 months. And so productivity wise, I don't lose things and I can share it really easily. So that's been great for me.
That's good. Awesome. What's a new crazy business idea you'd love to pursue if you had the time?
Business idea that I'd love to pursue. I mean, there's just 1,000. There's so many. Business. Oh God. So I don't know if I want to share that one yet. We'll hold on that one because I got to be careful. If I share the really good ones, then like somebody might. I'm not ready to jump on them yet. Somebody could run with them. So, I'm launching. Actually, this is actually something that we're working on. Is an SOP writing service for moving and storage companies. This is something that's on my project board in Asana that's coming. That's probably, if I have some more time, that's really what I'd love to work on at the back end of 23 and then 24 is a team of creative writers that understand moving and storage. And so we teach them systems and we teach them how to customize SOPs for moving companies and then make it to where like there's communication chat line to not just make them one time and then they become a old archive, but to like make them living documents. And so like the owner and the management team can say, hey, we changed this process. Somebody goes and does it in the background. And obviously I would love to make that a subscription-based service because I love MRR.
Yep.
But yeah, that's probably the one that I'd love
like
to spend some time.
subscription-based companies also.
Do what?
I said I also love subscription-based businesses.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. What's the one of your interesting or fun facts about you that most people don't know?
I'm pretty open, so most people know everything about me. Fun fact, interesting thing about me that people don't know. Wow, man, I feel like all I do is I hang out with my wife, I hang out with my 1 month old, and I do MoveUp. That's all I do. So I don't have as many things. But one fun fact, honestly, I told Rebecca this, my wife, the other day. I was like, what if I was not a business owner? What if we didn't run MoveUp? I was like, what would I do? I was like, we just posed that conversation. I don't know if you've ever done this as an owner. It's just like, what would I do if I sold, just didn't have companies anymore? Like in 30 years, like what would I do? I'm like, golly, I can't take a job. I can't I can't, I'm not employable. I'm unemployable, So I'm like, well, I'd be a really crappy, employee. And so my dream, I don't share this quite as much, but a big vision for my wife and I is we're going to have a ranch. It's going to happen for us here in the future. And that's going to be my second half of life is I'm going to be a rancher, man. I'm going to have we're going to have a ton of livestock. And that's going to be my business in the second half of my life is probably going to be getting out of recruiting one day. It's going to be a long time from now, but that's really the life that we want to have. I don't think I probably tell that to everybody, but we've got dream boards and vision boards with Indian runner ducks on them, Australian cattle dogs. What else we got? Old English baby doll sheep on there. Just all kinds of different animals. And
you got to get some fainting sheep.
Fainting sheep. Yeah.
Yeah. They're the ones you yell at and they just fall over.
Yeah.
My wife thinks those are amazing.
Oh, yeah. And the thing that I think about with that is just I figure that the worst thing that a cow can do is just like moo back at me or charge at me, and I'm like, I'll take that most days over or whatever we're getting at MoveUp. But that's probably something that most people don't know. I love just farmland.
That's
love being out, and we're pretty, I want to say we're like organic, granola people. We're not, if you ever heard that term granola, like we're not granola people, but we really value that. And I think that more people could, get in tune more with like just not buying processed stuff all the time and not just, not, just living a better lifestyle, so.
That's cool. Yeah. So that kind of leads into the next question, which may be very similar. What's your most important passions outside of work?
Oh, yeah. Well, we kind of twofer there. Most important. Right now the most important passion is figuring out how to be a dad. My wife just had our first baby, and
so 1 month old.
Yeah. So his name's Wyatt. Wyatt Lee Davis, which is like, just think that's a cowboy name already. I already seen him, of course. And so, that's my biggest passion right now is like, how do I be a great dad? Like, how do I not get frustrated at a baby? How do I stay patient?
And running a company, which is, has its challenges also with a newborn for sure.
Yeah. And then, if we want to talk about just interests aside, family is just going to be so prevalent with a young family. But I'm also very much so avid in multifamily real estate investing. I love looking at deals. I probably look at a deal a day. It's kind of been my thing for the last year, is just do a deal a day, like process the deal and run the numbers on it. And so once we move down to the Roanoke, Virginia area, that's where we're headed here in a few weeks. I'm just excited about kind of buying up Roanoke. I'm going to buy Roanoke. That's essentially what I'm going to do. So that's kind of like a tertiary business. It's not my main thing, but I like.
Yeah, but it's fun too. It's fun. We love doing it too. I own a bunch of triplexes.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
And some of them were regular homes, and then we turned them into triplexes and stuff. So it's a neat thing we really enjoy too, especially in this rental market.
Yeah.
Right now, where rents, we're just playing the game, but rents are very high compared to what they were traditionally. So that helps us with getting rentals, because obviously you make quite a bit more money there. So
right. Yeah. It's not just appreciation in the property value, but there's appreciation in rents.
Cash flow.
You're building equity. You can depreciate the property. There's so many ways to create wealth in real estate. And it's fun. It's fun to look at deals, and just every deal is different. Every deal is different. Yeah. And the creative finance part is where it's a lot of fun, is, not just doing, purchasing a property normally. There's so many ways to do acquisition. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, cool. So if people want to get a hold of you, what's the website? What's the phone number? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah. So you can go to MoveUpConsulting.com, and there'll be a phone number on there. There's probably a form that you can click to get some info. Our email's on there. The best guy to get in touch with is not going to be me. It's going to be Hunter Monroe. He's great. He actually used to be a GM of a moving company in the Atlanta metro market. So he's got a vast amount of resources and info. And so he's Hunter at MoveUpConsulting.com. And we'd love to connect. And if we can help people, we'd love to. This is a time of year. This is a great time of year to beef up staff, get as much money in May, June, July, August. And it's a great time for it. So we'd love to help.
Perfect. Well, awesome. Well, thank you very much for being on it today. And we'll see you next time.
Attention, moving company owners. Are you tired of managing your business with spreadsheets and pen and paper methods? Do you want to streamline your operations, increase your bookings, and look more professional to your customers? Then it's time to switch to MOVEITPRO software. Our cloud-based platform provides everything you need to manage your moving company in one place, from booking and dispatching to payment processing and customer communication. Plus, with features like GPS tracking, real-time notifications, and detailed reporting, you'll be able to optimize your operations and take your business to the next level. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.moveitpro.com to schedule a free demo today and see how we can help you move your business forward.